Hello guys, welcome to the channel. So today we're gonna see a trailer about Evernight, and at the same time we're also gonna see YouTubers, other YouTube channel streamers getting access to Evernight. So we're gonna dive into one of the streamers, yeah, and have a look at the Evernight, and I'll also give my judgments whether you go for even Evernight or skip straight away for Siren. So with this, let's jump into the let's jump into the trailer. Okay, so this is the trailer by Honky Styles. Oh, bad dreams, huh?
The girl who appeared suddenly seemed both dangerous and enigmatic, but she still showed us care. Though we never met before, she knew us like the back of her hand. She is an aspect of March 7th who appears as a savior in life and death situations. For unknown reasons, she calls herself Evernight. Is she a friend or foe? Where did she come from? Where will she go? Confusion and suspicion tangle with the truths in our hearts. What exactly happened to March 7th? On today's Keeping Up with Star Rail, let's try to break through the fog and see what kind of terror, terrific surprises Evernight will bring us.
Terror?
No. Almost said my thoughts out loud.
It's okay to see what's on your mind. Pouring your heart out is your style of hosting.
Okay.
As long as you're okay with it. Then let's unravel the truth behind the mysterious Evernight.
I will do my best to help. But to be honest, I also don't know a whole lot.
Evernight is an ice character on the path of remembrance, and she seems completely different from the March 7th we all know.
Even though her personality seems a bit different, some of her features are still the same as before.
Such as?
She still loves coordinating her outfits, but the style has changed a bit.
Thinking back to when March 7th was on the show, she always tried to take pictures during the live combat videos.
Oh.
When Evernight uses her basic attack, she will deal ice damage based on her max HP to one designated enemy. When Evernight enters combat, uses her skill, or uses her ultimate, she will summon the Memo Sprite Eevee. When summoned, Eevee immediately takes action.
If we could talk to these jellyfish, maybe we could find out what happened to her.
You'd have to understand animal language. Doesn't seem
Right.
easy.
Don't worry, I understand their hearts.
Wow.
Whoa.
I knew Mr. Dunham was talented, but I didn't think you could talk to animals too. No wonder we hit it off so well. Eevee is immune to all crowd control debuffs and has a higher chance of being targeted. While Eevee is on the field, it increases damage dealt by itself and Evernight. Whenever Evernight or Eevee's HP drops, their crit damage increases for a set number of turns, and they both gain 1 point of Memoria. Whenever Evernight uses her skill, she will consume a certain amount of HP instead of skill points. She also gains some Memoria points with her skill and boosts the crit damage of all ally Memo Sprites for several turns. If the Memo Sprite Eevee is on the field, its HP will be healed by a certain amount. If Eevee is not on the field, it will be summoned instead. When Memoria exceeds a certain amount, Evernight will dispel and become immune to all crowd control debuffs, and Eevee will immediately take action if it's on the field. After immediately taking action, Eevee deals ice damage based on its max HP to one designated enemy and all other enemies. This attack consumes all of Eevee's HP and all Memoria. The more Memoria consumed, the higher the damage. Eevee then leaves the field. When Eevee leaves the field, Evernight's speed is increased until the start of her next turn.
Are these Memo Sprites working for some common goal?
Why don't you take this window of opportunity to talk to the jellyfish, Mr. Donna? Oh no, wait, window's pretty short. Evernight's ultimate summons Eevee and causes Eevee to deal ice damage to all enemies. And Evernight also enters the darkest riddle state. In the state, she and Eevee deal more damage and are immune to all crowd control debuffs and increased damage taken by all enemies. While in the darkest riddle state, Evernight will gain additional memorial points when she uses her skill, and her ultimate can charge up darkest riddle.
She seems good at using various means to extend her advantage and doubling that with her friends.
Wow, seems like Evernight is an excellent friend then.
That presupposes she is our friend.
Eevee consumes 1 point of Darkest Riddle when using the Memo Sprite skill, Dream Dissolving is due. If Darkest Widow points are 0 when Evernight's turn begins, she will exit the state. When Eevee's turn begins, it prioritizes dealing ice damage based on its max HP to Evernight's last attack target. If Evernight has Memoria at this time, Eevee will deal additional damage. The more Memoria there is, the higher the extra damage. After Eevee attacks, Evernight gained a certain amount of Memoria. Huh. It seems like she has a deep relationship with these jellyfish.
It needs further investigation.
After unlocking a certain traits, Evernight regenerates some energy at the start of combat and gains some Memoria. When she or any ally Memo Sprite, including Eevee, uses an ability, she gains 1 point of Memoria and regenerates a certain amount of energy. After unlocking another of Evernight's traits, if there are other Remembrance teammates on the team, her skill effect of increasing ally Memo Sprite's crit damage will be further enhanced. The more teammates on the path of Remembrance, the more buffs this effect provides. During exploration, Evernight's technique will give the entire team's Memo Sprites the crit damage boost from her skill after entering the next battle, and also grant a certain amount of Memoria. In summary, there are 2 aspects to Evernight's core mechanism. The first is that she boosts the entire team's Memo Sprite crit damage without consuming skill points. After unlocking specific traits, the more teammates on the path of Remembrance there are, the bigger the extra buffs are. The second aspect is that she quickly stacks Memoria through various means. When Memoria reaches a certain threshold, Eevee will deal damage to enemies. I have some rare combat footage of Evernight here. Don't say it was me who showed it to you.
Thank you. Now I can come up with a strategy in advance.
Evernight uses her technique and enters battle, increasing the crit damage of allied Memo Sprites. Without further ado, the summoned Eevee attacks the enemy, adding to Evernight's Memoria. Evernight launches her skill.
I'm in a tough spot,
HP, refreshes the number of turns the allied Memo Sprite's crit damage boost is active for, and further increases
like
Memoria.
my account's in a pretty tough spot now.
HP to inflict heavy losses on the enemy.
Whom to
Casts
choose?
new bug gains charge, Evernight's energy is fully regenerated. She launches her ultimate and enters the darkest real state, clearing the field with ease, and Eevee welcomes the second wave of enemies with pure punishment. Teammate uses their skill, causing Evernight's HP to fluctuate and Memoria to increase. The enemy resists when Eevee's on the attack, making the most of the still active darkest riddle state. Evernight properly uses her skill. Memoria points quickly accumulate until full, and Eevee takes an extra action, savagely bombarding the enemy. The teammate launches their ultimate, and with skilled coordination from the entire team, the enemy's assault grinds to a halt. And that's a wrap. Woo. Today's been exhausted. I'm out of breath.
Is something wrong?
Mister,
Uh-oh.
should I feel tired too? Just go out and go back to sleep.
Who's there?
I wanted to create the perfect guest experience for you and your memory. Didn't think
Nice.
you'd resist this much. Don't worry, try again. Time to clock in.
Wait, hey! No one wants to go to work twice.
Oh boy, what a trailer.
Oh, terrific surprises Evernight will bring us.
Terror?
No.
Yo. Damn, I gotta get this like. Yep. Oh man. So let us jump into one stream's account. So let's go to wait. Let's go to Mr. Pokey. He's got the Evernight early access review, right? He's got access to Evernight. So let us see what he has to say.
Right after Servidra's upgrade to Phynon, Aster's HQ spared no time when it came to a fresh cook right off the shelf with Evernight, whose kit functions perfectly with her sub DPS and support capabilities while substantially improving Caster's new buff generation. Moreover, she shows impressive personal damage numbers both as a sub DPS and even as a main DPS for a new member in our Tricycle archetype. The main question you're probably wondering is who will be Evernight replacing in our current Caster's team, namely RM03B, as well as her future prospects as we ramp up to Cyrene as well as version 4. Jumping straight into the summary of Evernight, she is basically a remembrance sub DPS pseudo support, a little bit similar to how Anexa felt during its launch as an Erudition sub DPS support. Evernight has solid personal damage due to an insane number of personal crit damage and damage buffs, on top of a 30% vulnerability debuff, while also having the added utility of very fast new buff generation with casters. Realistically speaking, her main appearance will primarily be with casters, while having some potential as a standalone DPS running the Tricycle team as of now. We'll explore what she has to offer in these two areas and discuss the potential prospects of what is to come in the future. So jumping into the character kit, for a basic attack you're pretty much never going to use this, so don't have to worry about it. For a skill, you would always want to use her skill, so there isn't too much of an issue on the buff uptime, and the buff is an aura buff on her, so Mimo Sprite summoned after the buff is applied can still be affected by Evernight's crit damage buff. Her summon is very similar to casters, in a sense where they are not meant to be on field the entire time, unlike Aglaya, RMC, and High C. As such, most of the time, this skill will not be used to heal, and the HP consumption here will contribute towards Caster's new buff. Keep in mind, whenever you use a skill, even if the Mimo sprite is at full HP, you can still generate new buff for Casters. Her building crit damage buff, which has the same 24% scaling and Sparkle skill, is slightly lower than Sunday's 30% crit damage scaling, but keep in mind, this buff is only limited to Mimo sprite, and the duration works similar to Rame, Tribi, and Robin. Now, during the ultimate state, which will last for 2 enhanced attacks, it will gain 12 stacks, which is usually almost instantly places you at 16 stacks to perform the enhanced attack for EV. Now, jumping into the ultimate, this is going to be a 240 energy cost with very decent AoE damage, 30% vulnerability, with an additional personal 60% damage buff. On top of this, you are going to be immune to all crowd control, which is a very nice quality of life, considering Hyacinth cannot immediately dispel all the crowd controls. Darker's Riddle is an enhanced state that is fixed on the number of times EV moves, which is 2 times in total. Now, ideally, I would want to wait for this ultimate state to activate first in order to have the 30% vulnerability, which stacks on very nicely with Tribi's ultimate for a 60% total damage vulnerability. Now, as a casual sub DPS, you do want to use this ultimate to summon EV, so only do it when EV is not on the field. Also, the 30% vulnerability is only removed when her next turn begins, so it is worth keeping in mind since the energy cost is quite high at 240, and especially if you do not have her signature Lycon to assist with her. Now, when you do hit the 16 plus stacks and you take an immediate action, I'll intentionally want to delay this ultimate a little bit, even if I had enough energy to let Evie die, because then using the ultimate to summon Evie back immediately will apply the 30 damage vulnerability buff while still giving us a very good amount of new buff generation. However, as a main DPS, I would just use the ultimate as fast as possible to squeeze in the highest possible damage within the action values, as well as helping her charge ultimate a little bit faster. Then jumping into the talent, the key thing for this is that you want to use this to stack Memoria, which is whenever Evernight or Eevee loses HP once per target per attack. Now this would include effects like enemy attacks, caster skill, Hyacinth light code, etc, etc. And the more often you lose HP, the faster you bring up Eevee to kill it and in turn give casters more new buff. Now it is possible to hit 60 Memoria instantly at the start of combat, but do know that although she will take action immediately, this effect can only trigger again after the enhanced Mimo Strike attack, which means it is possible to stack on Memoria higher than 16, similar to Saber's charge mechanic where there is no seeding. That being said, it isn't as ideal for casters new buff generation because you actually want Eevee to die as frequently as possible for the highest amount of new buff. But it is still very fun to see goofy art damage numbers for a 40 stack Evernight Blast, and this will be way more relevant in the role as a main DPS. And then for a technique, you pretty much just use it for team-wide Mimo Sprite crit damage buff, which is the exact same with your skill as well as +1 Memorial. Then quickly talking about our Mimo Sprite Eevee itself, it is basically split into the skill and the talent, but majority of the focus will be on the skill because her skill is going to be Evernight's main gimmick from both a damage as well as a new buff generation perspective. This splits into both basic and enhanced attack, with the latter activating at 16 or above Memoria points and Evernight not being crowd controlled. The basic skill can just be viewed as a normal basic attack, which gains 10% multiplier for every 4 Memoria and giving 1 Memoria itself. Now the enhanced skill multiplier actually goes up drastically from 10% with every 4 to 12% for the main target and 6% for all others for every 1 Memoria. So at 16 stacks, this will be a minimum 192% multiplier plus 72% to all target. This is also a full-on AoE attack with extra damage on the primary target that you were to choose, which is very nice against the bosses with summons, similar to D Herda's enhanced skill. Now, while we know that the lost HP upon death contributes towards Caster's new buff generation, but we can also see from this clip over here her normal skill, enhanced EV skill, and her traits Dark the Night all combines together, especially with Hyacinth team HP increase to give Caster's a massive 30% new buff generation from a single rotation. Her personal damage at 36 deaths was also over 500,000 against 2 targets, especially when combined with Tribi's vulnerability and rest pen buffs. Now with this number going even higher, especially if you have more Memoria stacks or you just have the E1 Tribi. And then for the Mimo Sprite talent, honestly there's nothing too crazy. It's basically a personal damage increase by 50%, instant action when you summon, and increases Evernight speed by either 10% or up to 40% if you use it during the enhanced skill. Nothing too impactful about this, and the potential 40% speed buff only lasts until the start of her next turn. Now for major tracers, you have a built-in 35% crit rate, so 65% is a good stopping point for Evernight, easily achieved with an 18.7% crit rate trace. Also, every single time you consume 5% of her own HP to increase new buff generation and her own crit damage, while giving 1 skill point after every enhanced Mimo Strike skill for even faster rotations and skill spam on Hyacinth. For the next trait, 70 energy and 1 Memoria can allow for an instant ultimate at the start of her turn, applying the 30% vulnerability and increasing new buff generation for casters. This trait also allows for ultimate to be much faster despite being a 240 energy cost, with every 5 energy and 1 Memoria gain per ally Mimo Sprite, meaning RMC will technically cycle her faster than Tribi at the expense of Tribi's buffs. And lastly, up to a 65% crit damage increase for all Mimo Sprites. Now I personally don't find this to be that big of a difference in terms of damage between the 15% crit damage and Tribi's amplification, choosing to use RMC. They are roughly the same for casters, but Tribi can boost both Hyacinth and Evernight's damage. And then for the minor tracers, it's very nice at the 18.7% crit rate, 80% HP, as well as 20.3% crit damage. Skill leveling, outscale Mimo skill, Mimo talent, as well as her basic. Now jumping to the Signature Lycone, for this comparison, S1 does offer a more than 20% damage increase for both herself as well as Caceres, and this is notable with the 20% defense ignore, especially if Caceres has her own S1 to further amplify the defense down. On top of that, the 30% damage increase for Evernight itself, despite not having defense down, is a very nice damage multiplier increase. The 8 energy is also extremely comfortable, translating to roughly 24 energy based on a 3-turn rotation when I use Chibi. Now other than the story S5, you could also run a duplicate Hyacinth Lycone since the HP consumption can work especially if you're an unreadable player, although the damage taken effect will not stack. The Battle Pass S5 as well as Herda Star are also decent alternatives for crit damage buff as well as speed respectively. Generally speaking, her Lycone will scale very well the closer you reach to 100% defense ignore for DPS, and due to a lack of close substitutes, unless you run Hyacinth S1, this is a very nice pickup. Then going into the relics, the 4-piece world is built perfectly for Evernight, increasing a whopping 24% max HP, but unfortunately you do need a Mimo Sprite, so it's a pretty sad day for Blade and Mighty. Also, this gains 15% for all allies damage buff, perfect to increase 3-piece and Hyacinth damage. For the 2-piece, a bone is gonna be the standard HP set, so nothing too crazy over here, but we might be worth considering the brand new Arcadia, which is the final set, because it can give her a 36% damage boost if there are 4 Mimo Sprites on the field. Unfortunately, Caceres Dragon wouldn't be on the field all the time, and with our best teams currently running Tribi, Bone is the ideal option for now because Bone also gives you crit damage and her team buff scales on crit damage. This, however, can change with Cyrene as a 4-star remembrance for even more 36% damage bonus. And for our main sets, crit damage body, speed boots, ice damage sphere, HP rope, as well as either speed or HP percentage subsets. For the speed boots and crit damage body, they were self-explanatory with a massive built-in crit rate which easily allows us to hit the 100% crit rate in battle. For your ice damage versus HP percentage comparison, I did find a roughly 5.3% more damage running the ice damage sphere, so take that into consideration despite having worse crit ratios for ice damage. I also found myself not relying on the ER rope and still having a very consistent 3-turn ultimate, which then allowed me to further amplify your own HP that translates into more new butt for casters. Now keep in mind, 3-turn ultimate rotation is extremely important because the enhanced state lasts for 2 attacks and ends on Evernight's next turn. So by a 3rd turn, she has to get her ultimate ready to go to be able to get 100% coverage for the 30% vulnerability. Now as I've mentioned previously, I also potentially hold Evernight's ultimate just to let Eevee die as frequently as possible for more caster stacks. The ice damage was going to be a little bit better at the expense of slightly lower new butt, but I would say this was worth it because the new butt dropper was so little. Unless you have a 99% caster new butt scenario, then feel free to change the HP to percentage sphere. Then jumping into the idol, she has an extremely strong E1 as well as E2 for main DPS Evernight and a very big E6. This E1 in my opinion is going to be game changing, especially if you are a caster's main. At worst, this is a 20% base multiplier buff to all Mimo Sprites, and at best is a 50% multiplier buff. Now keep in mind, this is only for Mimo Sprites, which brings us to the topic where because it is a multiplier buff increase, this is one of the highest damage increase in the game, even more so than red span and vulnerability. Now for caster's mains, this damage increase can also be absurd in all of our endgame content, be it area of effect or single target, and helps a lot with Caceres' weaker single target rotation. For herself, the base multipliers are a little bit too low to enjoy the full benefits, while Ika and Mimi can gain a little bit more damage output, but ultimately at the end of the day, you should only consider this if you're going to be running Caceres as your main DPS. So unless you're absolutely locked in for Caceres, E1 will pretty much be completely useless for all of our other DPS other than raising her own damage and Ika's damage in the tricycle team, so it's a very all-nothing team comp, Mimo Sprite or no Mimo Sprite. Then going into Idolin 2, this is almost a game changing, and I personally feel this would be game changing if it was just E1, which would make this one of the strongest E1 in the entire game, because this combines both charge speed as well as a damage increase. The 40% more crit damage means more crit damage for the rest of the Mimo Sprites, and it also leads to a much faster charge for Caceres, as well as stacking your personal damage to increase the multipliers of her EV and Hunt skill. This E2 is also really strong for main DPS Evernight, where her personal damage from E2 goes up by more than 50% with an additional 2 Darkest Reload state, meaning 40 Memorial instead of 20 for 1 ultimate use, essentially full coverage of your 30% vulnerability, often leading to access and translates into way more higher damage numbers for Evernight. Then going on to E4, break efficiency is pretty good, especially in Apex Shadows, but it might be counterintuitive if you want enemies to hit your HP scaling team for more stacks. And then lastly, E6, first of all, this is one of the coolest E6 I've seen in the entirety of HSR. Second of all, classic red spend as well as a 30% Memorial refund, which is very similar to Caceres' 30% new.
That looks like a light
this
code.
fits perfectly with Evernight
Damn.
almost infinite EV and Hunt skill spams every single time. So at the end of the day, between E1 and S1, I would say they are both excellent vertical investments. E1 is a very high damage increase, while S1 has no close substitutes unless you have a spare Hyacinth Lycone. Now they are both at the end of the day damage increase. I personally go for the E1, especially for Caceres owners, to the highest damage amplification while using either the story, battle pass, or Herda Star Lycone in the meantime.
Very
Now,
important.
team comps, I will focus this early access guide to 3 main teams, which are the Caceres running the RMC variant, the Tribi variant, as well as lastly Evernight as a main DPS herself. Now everything was done in E0 S1 with Tribi running E0 DDD, full auto for both first half and second half of the current Memory of Chaos. Stay tuned for the live server to test even
The meme on the right.
Now between these 3 teams, I would say Tribi is the highest possible damage as of now, with the built-in synergy for all 3 units being HP scaling, and Heavy is the live server to test running E0 DDD.
Yeah, that meme on the right though. I'm in love with it.
tuned for the live server to test even more different team comps. Now, between these three teams, I would say Tribi is the highest possible damage as of now, with the built-in synergy for all three units being HP scaling and having AoE attacks on top of buffs and debuffs that helps the entire team. RMC will be slightly behind since her buffs are only mainly for casters, right? Because you can buff a single target with Mimi. Now, above all, Tribi can use a God of all light cones, done, saving you more action value for all endgame content as well, on top of all the different buffs they're providing. Now, the charge time for Memoria will be slightly slow for Tribi compared to RMC, but generally speaking, it is not that big of a difference since we are standing on bigger damage numbers and more suitable for AoE content like Pure Vision and MOC bosses like Lycos. This will also likely be the best team for the upcoming Anomaly Arbitration featuring Lycos as the finals boss, so for the brand new endgame content, stay tuned for another video for that. Now, while this may be in the best slot, I would say RMC does not fall too far behind. In fact, they are very, very close. Although, unfortunately, you definitely need to use manual play to time RMC's skill and ultimate usage such that Casterus does not waste her actions during Pollock's uptime, which would be a direct loss of new bar generation and overall damage decrease. There was this one time in the main DPS Evernight where I literally had to pause because I could not bear to see AI wasting a 40% RMC charge from a wasted ultimate. Now, a very important thing to note that between both Tribi and RMC, it's very similar to how Fuke replaced HMC. So this means Cyrene might or might not replace the RMC in that slot, and if that is going to be the situation, then we have to wait and see if Tribi can stay in competition with Cyrene or if Evernight can stay in competition with Tribi. Finally, for Evernight as a main DPS, it was surprisingly comparable to Casterus herself, just barely missing the 0 cycle for the first half considering Japal is literally 40% ice rest and getting 1 cycle on Lycos with some very satisfying damage numbers when hit at 64 stacks Memoria for more than 3 million damage. This team has also some very strong potentials for vertical investments in either Evernight, Tribi, or Hyacinth items. Now, this current archetype once again reminded me of the D Herda and the Nexa team building where you take out a Nexus to stand alone with Sunday Robin Hui Hui for some 魔术技巧, right? And as of now, Evernight main DPS is not going to be the best performing HP Mimo DPS, especially if you want to compare it to Casterus, but this might change once again if Cyrene were to change the entire history of Remembrance as a whole.
Okay.
And for our last segment, this is going to be talking about our endgame performance. I will be discussing using the Tribi variant because I feel they have the highest synergy as well as performance as of now. Should you want to use Tribi for other teams, for example, D Herda and My Day, kindly swap this slot into RMC instead because, like I mentioned, the difference is not that big. You just really have to time your manual play for the charge timings for Casterus to generate her new butt. On the other hand, Final is very, very chill without Tribi, and a lot of the other DPSs, even if you do not have Tribi, is probably not going to be the end of the road, right? So these are going to be the finals over here. And I first want to preface that this particular team, where Casterus, Evernight, Tribi, and Hyacinth ran together, it was really auto-friendly, just like Firefly back in the days, where there's barely anything to min-max and optimize, except for the occasional wasted new buff from Hyacinth and Evernight ultimates. As such, they are a very casual friendly team. Slap them and go, they're pretty much gonna do everything for you. So for Memory of Chaos, they didn't really face a lot of energy issues while on HP roll, and Lycos was a free ultimate machine that allowed almost infinite ultimate spams and having absurd Memoria attacks with Evernight to deal with the summons for Lycos. The Hyacinth S1 does have a lot of value here, which helps with the last few percent of new buff should you fail to get the Casterus ultimate. Now do note that the HP loss of a 16 or 6 stack Memoria EV is going to be the exact same number of new bot forecasters. So with this setup, every single time EV is going to be dying, that will be translating to roughly 14% new bot, even if your stacks are higher. Now ideally, more EVs to help with casters is going to be more important than Evernight's personal damage, but if the boss mechanics like Lycos helps us to generate more energy and ultimates in return, then it really doesn't matter that much. We will save the brand new MOC for another video. First of all, I really a little bit mongas for this boss. It reminds me of like this Elden Ring boss, it is what it is, but for using the Evernight and casters for Flame River in the next MOC would be more ideal. And then jumping into Pure Vision, I would say this is truly exceptional performance, and honestly there's not much to be said. Even right now, Casterus is standing as the strongest Pure Vision team period with Hyacinth and Tribi, and Evernight just further cements their position by swapping out RMC for even more new butt as well as additional area of effect damage. The targeting for Evernight is also one main with all others AoE target, which is perfect for wave 2 and wave 3, very similar to D Herda skill, right? So Pure Vision, not too much to say, absolutely exceptional. And then lastly for Apoc Shadows, ironically the 40% Ice Rest Cocolia had a slightly better performance than Pollux, although they're both very similar. The toughness breaking was very fast and Japar died from the splash damage over time, while all of the other different pillars collapsed very quickly from the amount of AoE we have. Unfortunately, if Casterus was to get frozen, we will lose a lot of value because no Pollux can be summoned and hence no new butt generation from the rest of the team unless we get off a Hyacinth skill and Hyacinth ultimate. The Pollux Apoc is going to be the exact same as our previous Memory of Chaos. The boss is specifically designed to shield for the HP environment, so not too much to discuss over here. If you're going to be using Casterus, you're pretty much going to be having a walk in the park. So overall, definitely going to be charging new butt a lot faster for Casterus when combined with DDD, leading to a very fast clear for Apoc Shadows. And with that, we have come to the end of Evernight's early access review. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I really am looking forward to see how our synergy is going to be like with Casterus, as well as the standalone as the main DPS. But at the end of the day, above everything, we do know that Cyrene is coming on version 3.7. And unfortunately, I don't really know what she does all the way until her early access is going to be coming out. So let me know what you guys think below. Word of the day is going to be Jellyfish, join Twitch, join Discord, join all the best. Welcome to Pussy, go with them, games. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
So this is another video from Mr. Pokey. This time, yes, this is gonna be into battle scenarios, right? Oh, the last video he did explain a lot about like how she's gonna be used and where she's gonna be used. But now we're gonna see maybe the battle scenarios. And oh boy, I mean, just look at the thumbnail, duh. Like she's this strong that wherever she goes, like she's gonna give you 30 remaining cycles in MOC.
Whoa. I'm gonna take pictures of everything that's new to me. That way I won't forget
Oh
about
man.
Hey, wait for me! Ooh, huh? Pom-Pom's gonna love this.
Oh man.
Hey, over there.
No. I'm all in for Evernight.
Hey guys, Mr. Pokey here, and for today's episode of Early Access Quadra Zero Cycles, we are going to be taking a look at my experiences featuring Evernight, as well as how her performances are going to be for the next 4 Memory of Chaos, the current Japart, Ligas, the brand new ML series that is going to be happening, which is going to be, I believe, Judge of Oblivion, as well as Flame Weaver. So I'm going to be showing you guys at various points of investments. Generally speaking, I would say that Evernight's zero cycle potential, it is largely tied with either her role as a sub DPS with Castris, or if you're just going to be running her as a standalone main DPS. Maybe we have some hidden niche comms that maybe Evernight could fulfill, but I've not been testing her enough because we're going to be finding out her in a live server. With regards to the actual zero cycle, I would say for Evernight in particular, it is actually very straightforward. You either deal enough damage running with Hyacinth or just don't deal enough damage, which means that there's not a lot of room for me to actually manipulate and min-max with regards to actually performing enough damage within the 250 action value for first wave as well as second wave. What I mean to say is because unlike like Final as well as a lot of the other sustainless zero cycles, for example with D-Hurl or even Akron, you can ground the potential of running this with RNG, so getting hit, getting the charge with Mimi, getting the additional actions, getting the targeting from the enemies. But running Evernight or running Evernight with Castris is really dependent on your entire team's output with Hyacinth, because running without Hyacinth on Evernight is an absolute disaster. I've already tried running Evernight without Hyacinth before already. It is just simply very bad because she constantly drains her own HP every single time you do your skill. So the entire zero cycle setup I'm going to be showing you guys today is mainly going to be focusing on Evernight as a main DPS. For sub DPS capabilities with Castris, it's already done with the very first guy, right? With the full auto zero cycle, it was like super straightforward, which I think is not going to be a very value adding, right? From the very first rotation, she already full auto zero cycle first half, second half running Castris. So for this zero cycle showcase, I'm only going to be featuring Evernight as a solo main DPS from E0 all the way out to an E2 Evernight, just to see what performance it's going to be like, right? So without further ado, let's just jump into the zero cycles themselves. So starting off with the first zero cycle, this is going to be Evernight, Teep, RMC as well as Hyacinth. In fact, we are going to be running this exact same 4 units for every single one of our Quadra zero cycles, because the team building capabilities for main DPS Evernight honestly is just super restrictive. So we're just going to jump right in. The investments are going to be shown over here: E0 as 1, E1 as 0, Mimi Adele as the highest in E0 as 1. Right? So Teep is going to be on the E1 for the true damage buff. You can see over here that the main gimmick of running Evernight as a main DPS will be on the E1 for the true damage buff. You can see over Mimi Adele as the highest in E0 as.
Okay. Everyone's like everyone has a signature icon except okay, Chibi with DDDs and of course max constellations of RMC.
So Teep is going to be on the E1 for the true damage buff. You can see over here that the main gimmick of running Evernight as a main DPS is to actually try to time up your Jellyfish, your EV, to gain as much value as possible, especially before you actually get an E2 Evernight, right? So getting this additional turn pulls up our Evernight. Evernight is going to go for the skill over here, and then afterwards she's going to be going for the additional hit on this guy over here, right? So the main thing you can see over here, I'm going to let my Jellyfish die, then respawn my Jellyfish using my ultimate, and this is going to be a recurring pattern for the majority of our runs running the zero cycle to get the maximum possible damage in order to generate generate enough stacks, in this case Memoria, to deal enough damage, right? So afterwards, we're just gonna jump in, deal the normal Mimi, getting the charge here, getting a little bit more of the AoE, and then we're just gonna go into wave 2 essentially in a little bit, right? So this Mental Ray, I'm sure you guys have also played it before in the current mega of Chaos Rotation. It is very, very annoying once it activates its Dev's Dance mechanic because it basically delays all damage into a DOT. So for zero cycle perspective, it's actually very, very annoying. So you want to try to get rid of this Mental Ray as fast as possible. Getting a little bit of charge, 87%. So at this point forwards, I definitely know at 24%, I am going to be dealing enough to almost get him down. He's going to summon his goons over here, but once we get one more Evernight attack, then this is definitely going to be enough for our zero cycle. So he hits us over here, 100% action, very advanced, brings up our Evernight. We get off one more skill, which will bring us to 20 out of 16. This will hit the main target over here, and then afterwards, everything else is just going to go into wave 2, right? So he's going to aim Evernight, challenge you to a duel, but we do get enough energy to basically deal with all the mobs, and after this jellyfish spawns in with Hyacinth, it is definitely going to be enough to basically deal the flame, right? So barely just enough. All right, the trophy doesn't do a thing, which honestly is good because we do get a little bit more of the energy regeneration. So now at this point, we are just going to go in, do one big blast. Unfortunately, because of the dev sounds, we're not going to kill him immediately. So Hyacinth is going to activate the ultimate, gets us a little bit of regeneration. Ika is going to fly in, and then we are going to be able to get a kill. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to get energy on Hyacinth because the thing died a little bit too fast, but that will be just nice enough for us to get into wave 2. Activates our Duns on our E1 Trippy, and then Hyacinth is going to activate her normal skills, generate healing, generate the additional outward healing boost, and at this point, we just want to constantly aim apart 600,000 from our E0 as well as my main DPS, getting our Mimi to time in with 97% again. So the moment we get hit from Mental Ray, it is going to be 100%, and this will then pull up our Evernight from 54 action value, which means we are going to be getting quite a decent amount of action as well as value from Mimi over here, right? So this is going to give us exactly 16. So once again, like I mentioned, we're going to let go of our enhanced attack first, 249k, then activate our ultimate to go for another Mimo Sprite Revive, which is going to be a very nice 416,000 into 85k from the Jellyfish attack. Then from this point, he's going to spawn in this, and now he's going to activate the Revel Indestructible, which is the Dev Sound mechanic. So you just have to just deal with it. It is what it is. We're going to get hit from the Goldfish, which honestly is a very, very nice form of a additional energy for our team. You do want to let Hyacinth's Ika take the hit first to get rid of the Japar. So Triby's follow-up gets of Japar shield. Ika goes in on 426k because of Evernight buffing our entire Remembrance DPS. So every single Remembrance or every single Mimo Sprite is going to be dealing additional damage. 669,000, which is going to be very, very exceptional. Triby goes in for the basic into another dance, bringing our entire team up just a little bit higher. So Ika is going to just chill here a little bit. We have a lot of skill points. It's not going to be the main concern. And then from this point onwards, we do want to try and save our Mimi ultimate so we do not waste the additional turn. You can see over here, the action value from Evernight is going to be a 15. So you want to try to stack on an additional action value or rather an extra turn immediately after Evernight goes, right? So from this point, it's going to be quite straightforward. The Mimo Sprite is going to, the Mental Ray is almost going to die. Don't worry about it. We're just going to aim your part last 5%. Evernight is going to go for the additional skill, 30 out of 16. If this does not kill, we are going to let go of our RMC ultimate to bring us up for another extra turn, which is 100% going to kill. But this is going to be more than enough damage to get us a zero cycle. So if this was not enough, I would then activate my RMC ultimate, gets to 100% stack, bring up my Evernight once again for another skill into an ultimate, which will be more than sufficient to get us a zero cycle very, very comfortably for our first zero cycle over here. Alright, for our next zero cycle, it is going to feature Lygus with the exact same team, but for Lygus in particular, we are going to be taking a look at the potential of a E1 Evernight over here. So this is going to be running the E1 Evernight, which means we are going to be generating quite a lot more damage because of the additional multipliers from Mimo Sprite. So you're going to be able to see over here, the additional value we're getting is going to be dealing way more damage compared to the previous zero cycle. Just see how it goes. Also, just want to pause here. This entire zero cycle showcase of Evernight is not meant to be like a low-cost showcase or to show how it's going to be like, because generally speaking, I would say from a zero cycle perspective, HP scaling DPSs, especially those that are running with a sustained high scene, they have very little room, like I mentioned at the start of the video, to actually manipulate and try to do the best possible timings. So this is strictly just on her performance as a main DPS with the respective item investors. So that's pretty much it. And then we're just going to go in. This is going to do 456,000 damage immediately. And then once we're going to let him summon the goon, so let go of one of our RMC ultimate, slams in, gets the 46% charge for Mimi. Triby is going to activate this follow-up attack over here, and then we're going to let go with a 870,000 damage into another follow-up for 42k, and then we're going to let go of our Triby ultimate state. And at this point, it's going to be dealing an obscene amount of damage. You can see over here, Jellyfish is going to go in for not too shabby, right? Going for a basic attack, but the moment Evernight takes a hit over here, you're going to see the amount of damage we're going to be dealing very quickly. Even Ika, you can see over here, 795,000 damage from Ika, right? The true damage, the additional multiplier, the E1 value from Evernight truly just makes this a lot. Also, wait, I need to remove my chat, my bad. Yeah, so as I was saying, 795k, a really good amount of damage. Now, unfortunately, because we are not able to kill this guy with our enhanced, it will be a waste of damage. I'm actually going to be opting for a basic attack so that I don't waste my charges for this particular particular mob, which is still gonna be enough to deal with him immediately, right? So now we're gonna be at 19 out of 16 stacks, and because we are not gonna be in that big of a rush, we can actually generate even more stacks with Hyacinth just to get this up a little bit higher, 511,000 against 3 targets, and then you do want to try to make this stack on to an exact perfect amount for 1.2 million, and immediately after casting our skill, our Mimi brings up my Evernight again to allow me for a second skill, guys, because keep in mind, a very important thing is when Mimi gives Evernight extra turn, the jellyfish is not the one moving, but rather Evernight. So Evernight is the one giving you the stacks, and the jellyfish is the one where you're going to be dealing the additional damage, right? So you do want to try squeezing as many stacks as possible, especially for a main DPS Evernight. So at this point, we're going to be going for yet another stack game for a grand total of 41 stacks. This will then finally come up to 44, flies in for 1.1 million single target, which is absolutely absurd, gets us the additional ultimate from Hyacinth, and at this point against Lygas, I would say for his 0 cycle Lygas, it really just depends on who he aims for the additional energy, and luckily for us, he did aim Hyacinth, which means we're going to get off yet another Hyacinth ultimate to generate even more value, even more ECAR follow-ups, and then we're just going to heal a little bit more for our entire team. So goes back in for the heal, and then now when he summons the other 2 goons over here, it's going to transform into the special state, right? So we're let go of our ultimate, goes in for yet another transformation, very, very nice, and then over here, we're going to activate our Duns, bring our jellyfish up, because we are going to be at 16 out of 16, then we're going to let go of a massive damage against 5 target, which is going to be coming to 1.2 million and only 16 stacks. So the main mechanics with Lygas, I'm pretty sure you guys have also played this by yourselves for now by the time this video goes up, so just deal with the mobs as fast as possible, makes him transform back into the next alternative, which means he's going to take an increased amount of damage, right? Other than that, we're just going to keep getting the value, so the entire Lygas 0 cycle, it really just depends if Evernight can get an ultimate, right? If Evernight gets an ultimate, then the entire run becomes a lot easier. You can see 1.5 million damage from Evernight ultimate, and we are getting a lot more value from the jellyfish, which is going to be stacked down quite nicely because we have 3 of the additional enhanced over here. So this is going to fly in, booms back down for 2.4 million, instantly cutting all the mobs, and we transform him back to the next phase instantly. You can see over here, this vulnerability state that just got added, we are now going to be dealing even more damage with Lygas, so we do want to make him transform once again as fast as possible, which means we are going to be able to get the 0 cycle right before this entire thing comes out, right? So very satisfying 0 cycle. You can see over here a little bit, right? So this is going to be 100%, so unfortunately, I can't really do anything to try to squeeze out additional value from Evernight, so we're going to get an extra turn, and then afterwards, we're going to be able to summon our goldfish, and this is going to constitute as 1 out of 4, so the goldfish is always going to die. Yep, very nice. And then once Evernight gets her ultimate, we're going to be summoning yet another jellyfish, which means that is going to make him at 2 out of 4 over here. So this activates a charge, activates the ECAR follow-up attack, and then we're gonna go for our Mimi, and you can see because we summoned our Evernight, we are now gonna be at 2 out of 4 stacks, meaning that at the exact moment when he summons 2 more of the mobs, he's gonna transform once again, which is where it allows us to get the perfect 0 cycle, right? So this flies in, jellyfish goes in, and then this is gonna transform, he goes back in, and then he's gonna give us the RNG ultimate. So it depends on who he gives us the ultimate here, so hopefully he lands on Evernight here. If it does not land on Evernight, then you kind of just have to reset again, and okay, unfortunately, it didn't hit, but because we are going to be dealing enough damage, it's still going to give us enough 0 cycle because we are at 87% charge for Mimi. So we activate our Mimi ultimate, pull up Evernight, and then Evernight let go of 1 skill, and that is going to get us the perfect 0 cycle against Lygas right on the very last edge of the damage value, because if we didn't make him to transform, because we killed jellyfish twice, we summoned them twice, then it would not have been possible, right? So this is going to come down to the final hit. Evernight activates a skill. Okay, at this point, it's just high key overkill, so I'm just going to let go of our skill one more time. This is going to generate to, I believe, 40 stacks, and combined total 43, flies back in, last 4%, bada boom, bada bing, for 3 million damage, right? It's super overkill. I'm
3 million damage?
Possible even without the E1 trippy, but I think for E1,
Damn.
Evernight is going to be holding quite a lot more value. So that is going to be that for the Lygas 0 cycle featuring main DPS Evernight. Alright, now we're gonna go on into the next Memory of Chaos, which is gonna be coming after this current rotation, featuring Flame Reaver as well as the brand new Judge of Oblivion. Separate video is gonna come out very soon. For this particular 0 cycle, we are gonna be using E2 Evernight, right? So this is the power of E2 Evernight to just really see how much more damage and how much charge you're gonna be getting from Memoria. And you can see this team stacking on extremely quickly. I would say that the next upcoming Memory of Chaos, just be prepared because the enemies are definitely gonna be a lot more difficult compared to current rotation. So just, hold a little bit of memory preparation. So we are gonna be at 16 or rather 26, 29 stacks. So we are gonna be letting go at a massive 65 stacks for a grand total of 1.8 million damage against these 2 targets. Absolutely absurd. And then he's gonna go for his first attack. Summon his 2 goons. At this point, it's gonna be quite chill, so we don't really have to worry about it that much because we're definitely gonna be dealing enough damage before we go to Flame Reaver. You can see over here, they are pretty much almost dead, right? And at this point, I was thinking to myself, should I be using my skill or should I be using my base attack? So we did in fact go for the skill, slamming in our mini ultimate to generate us enough charge to prepare for the second wave. Teep is gonna follow up, and at this point, I actually opted for the Teep ultimate, slams in, goes for the bomba, and I'm gonna instantly get rid of all of them because I did not want my Evernight to use her enhanced skill on the mob. Right? I want to save this enhanced skill against Flame Weaver, so you can see we are gonna be at 55 stacks, and once he summons all of his goons and Mimi lets go of his charge, we are already at 63. I'm trying to time this basic such that it's gonna be happening right after, so Evernight takes an action. This is already gonna be at 71 stacks because I killed the first wave with Teep instead of wasting the enhanced skill on the first wave. 74, and then now we're gonna let go of a massive 81 stack, 6.3 million, instantly bringing him to wave 2. Absolutely absurd. Mimi brings me back up again, and I'm gonna activate my skill, activate my ultimate. It's just super giga ultra overkill because we basically got rid of his face almost instantly. The power of E2 Evernight here, and at this point, we're gonna select. I don't think it's quite enough to instantly get out of zero cycle. Okay, yeah, 1.2 million, still left with 21% HP, but at this point, we're definitely gonna be sufficient to get this out of the way. So Teep is gonna go for one more basic into another dance. Gets the skill over here. Actually, we probably don't even get dance. I think this is probably gonna be carrying on 15% remaining. Let's see if we get the kill over here. And there it is, no 1% today. So that is gonna be E2 Evernight zero cycle against Flame Weaver. And once again, not meant to be relatable, just to show you guys exactly what are the capabilities of this E2 Evernight. So E2 S1, everything else is gonna be the exact same. E1 Teep, E0S1 Hyacinth, as well as the Remembrance Trailblazer, right? And then one last zero cycle is gonna feature our Judge of Oblivion. Alright, so this is going to be our final zero cycle featuring the Judge of Oblivion. I think by the time this video goes, I'm not sure if this goes first or the Judge of Oblivion video comes out first. Generally speaking, I just want to say I tried a lot against this guy, right? So this guy, as you guys would have seen by now, he has a ridiculous amount of toughness bar, and before he breaks his toughness bar, he's gonna be receiving 50%.
This is a brand new monster.
So I feel like as a whole, Judge of Oblivion as a boss is really not meant for players with zero cycle, because it is almost impossible to break 480 toughness bar, at least realistically speaking, within the 150 action value you're going to be getting from wave 2. So I want to say, if you cannot zero cycle this guy, don't even worry about it, because I feel like his entire design is just to take it slow, play with his mechanics, go into wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, because by the time that happens, you should be getting a very combo clear the moment you break him, right? So this zero cycle is going to be done with all it, right? So E2 Evernight as well, but we did activate the E2 Tribute as well as even the E1 high. So we really went on just to brute force my way into this guy's specific zero cycle. Especially if you're going to be running this with a sustain featuring Hyacinth, it is very difficult to actually get it down. So just prepare yourself. So now we're going to get into the actual zero cycle. The mechanic is sort of the same with all of our other zero cycles, which is we want to try to stall wave 1.
I mean, I don't even care about like clearing everything within
Judge of Oblivion at full energy as well as preferably full skill points.
or one cycle. I care about clearing within 10 seconds.
The main thing that I would say is a little bit different compared to previous zero cycles is that you actually want to let go of your ultimate first, because you do not want to let Evernight take too many extra turns. Because what's happening here is every single time Evernight takes an extra turn, you can see this Mimi buff, this Mimi's true damage buff actually will wear off very fast. And the thing is, you do want to try to make this at 100% buff uptime so that Evernight gets the 50% true damage buff. You almost never ever want this true damage buff to drop off, which is why we're trying to conserve our turns and then make every single turn deal as much damage as possible by giving it as much stacks as possible, right? So that is going to be the gimmick. So we're going to go in here for a whopping 58 stacks into 65, slams in, not activating my Tribute ultimate just yet, because like I mentioned, I do want to try to stall this as much as I can to generate enough energy and enough charge, especially for Evernight before going into Judge of Oblivion. Otherwise, it's not for you. I just want to be so transparent. I tried against this boss so many times, but I really had to squeeze out as many action values as I can at the last possible moment. Then I actually got myself a zero cycle. So at this point, you can see we are just gonna stop. We're not even gonna cast our skill. We're just gonna let go of our base attack, and we are gonna make use of Hyacinth, which is gonna be our last mover, to get rid of every single one of these mobs at the last possible moment, so that our Mimi can go into the next wave at 100% charge, right? So this is like super precise. You can see we are gonna be at 95, slamming 98, and at this point here, you can see I'm at exactly 100% Mimi charge. If this does not kill, right? If Ika does not kill, the zero cycle will not happen. You actually want to conserve this 100% charge for the next wave so that we can get the highest amount of value possible. Refreshing my Evernight buff instantly, you can see we have 1 turn remaining. So it is absolutely pivotal. You get this to 100%, and then Hyacinth flies into the Ika, 709k, gets rid of the double kill, and then we go into wave 2 with basically everything maxed out. So we really have to squeeze out everything in our arsenal to actually get this zero cycle, because like I mentioned, this boss is not meant to be zero cycle. So we're gonna get an extra advance. We refresh our true damage buff, and at this point is where we can start dealing all of our damage numbers, right? So we did in fact activate our Ego 4 piece for RMC, because we do need him to be pseudo 200 speed and above. So we get this to be the extra value advance, bring this up right behind our Evernight, gets a skill, is gonna be 80 stacks, slams in after our slams in after our Ika gets the ultimate off to get even more stacks. This is gonna be 88, flies with another Teep follow up, 91 stacks, goes in for a little bit more, 91 goes in finally for 98 stacks, slams in for 1.7 million damage, right? Because this team is not possible to kill him by breaking his toughness bar. It's literally just impossible to break this within one wave, or rather zero cycles. So you're just gonna be dealing raw damage. And keep in mind, this is after 50% damage reduction. So realistically speaking, this would normally be 3.5 million, or rather 3.4 million, but because of the debuff, or rather the buff that he has, we are just gonna be brute forcing this very hard, right? So it's 1.7 million, slams in, gets us as much charge as possible. Now we start rebuilding our energy, rebuilding our skills, goes back in for Ika follow-up attack. He's gonna aim T. This is gonna be complete RNG, so don't have to worry about it too much. Summons the chickens, we're just gonna completely ignore, gets us our skills to 44 stacks again, and then hopefully this gets us a kill. Yes, we do at 2 million, and this is gonna be going into phase 2. He slams in for his AoE, and then he summons the chicken again. So once he summons the chicken, we're just gonna let go of our ultimate, Bring this back up to 861k. T follows up, gets rid of both of the chickens. Very, very nice. Jellyfish is gonna go in for another little bit of a follow-up attack. This is gonna be 32 charge, 516k. Mimi gets us to almost 100%, so we're just gonna go here for the base. Okay, I went for the skill because I want to get another charge, but I don't think I'm gonna be getting another action anyways, so I don't think it would have mattered. So we go back in for yet another skill for 43 seconds, slams this back in, back down to the last 34%. Hyacinth gets the heal, gets a little bit of a follow-up attack. Teep goes in for one last hit over here, and then we're gonna be able to activate our DDD. Activates DDD, brings up my entire thing you see over here. That will be my final action, and we will begin the zero cycle on this very, very last Evernight rotation. Right? So he's gonna take a hit, aim Evernight, so Evernight loses HP, which means we're gonna getting a little bit more Memoria. Don't worry about it, you wouldn't die because we are gonna
Oh,
be getting
damn.
Right? We're gonna be Hyacinth, HP scaling DPS, so definitely not gonna die over here. Gets us the ultimate, refreshes our HP buff, and then at 19 out of 16 stacks, Iga goes for one more action. He's at last 20% HP, and then Evernight gets one more skill off, and that will be the zero cycle with a little bit more action remaining. Actually, now that you take a look at it, we activate ultimate. This is gonna be 74%. I think if I didn't get a zero cycle here, if I cast skill on RMC one more time, I would have gotten the Mimi regardless, right? So this goes in, and if this did not kill, Mimi brings up for another additional action, so we would have definitely killed. So I would say it is definitely overkill here at 1.2 million, because I'm pretty sure if we did not hit, maybe this is a 99% charge to get one more action. Then it is what it is. Then just grind it out a little bit more. But that will be our zero cycle against Charge of Oblivion. Again, when I said this is not meant to be relatable because this boss is anti-zero cycle. He literally takes 50% less damage because you did not break his winners bar. We completely ignore the winners bar mechanic just to see how a E2 Evernight team is going to be performing with all of these different DPS vertical investments. So that is going to be pretty much it for our Quadra zero cycle over here. So this is going to be our setup. Evernight running the 138 speed-ish with the brand new 4-piece, the 2-piece, E2 S1 all the way towards the end. We started off with E0 S1. Team is going to be running the standard team over here. We did get this E2 just to increase our damage a little bit more, but I would say this is definitely an overkill, especially for the Judge of Oblivion. So E1 would have definitely sufficed. This is going to be our RMC. We actually slept on a Hyacinth Cylinder Lycone with the 4-piece Ego, ridiculous amount of speed, and then this finally is going to be our E1 S1 Hyacinth. So that is going to pretty much it for our Quadra zero cycle. One last time, not meant to be relatable. Zero cycling with Evernight definitely needs a ridiculous amount of vertical investment because most HP scaling DPS, they're not really designed to zero cycle anyways because they're all running for sustain. So take it as you will. But I kind of just want to show you guys at E2 S1 Evernight, her damage capabilities are definitely comparable even with Casuals herself. So maybe potentially in the future, if Cyrene comes out, replace Chibi with Cyrene, Quadra members, who knows how the performance is going to be like. So I'll let you guys decide for yourself. With that, we have come to the end of today's content. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Smash the subscribe and like button and share with all of your friends. Where the day is going to be. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join.
That's it. It ends with that's it. So you guys literally saw the Evernight showcases. Whereas like I will give you links to these videos. You can go watch these videos yourself and have a nice understanding of Evernight. And I'll also give you Braxphone's early access video as well, which I didn't show because this guy showed pretty much like what decks Evernight is compatible with. But if you have the Remembrance decks, especially caster assist decks, right? All Remembrance. Yep. So I think yes, Evernight will be taking the role of support. Like she will be substituting Treeby in this case and make it a full Remembrance team. Whereas if she does become the main DPS, not a problem. So she could be played both as a DPS and as a sub DPS. So if you're someone who's invested a lot into Remembrance characters, be it into the light cones or be it into the idols, she's absolutely fantastic. And she kind of gets a little bit of that Boodle or the Jingliu like effect, where especially a E1, right? Uh, like will deal high damage the lesser the number of enemies. So the highest will go. So if there's only a single boss in the field, so not only Evernight or even her Memo Sprite Eevee, but even the other characters and the Memo Sprites will be able to deal at 50% additional damage. So E1 is absolutely splendid. And if you do pull for a E1, great. Like you're pretty much secure your Remembrance team even post your 3.x metas. Even say when you jump into the 4.x, where the new set of characters are gonna be given priority, your remembrance characters is still gonna be viable because of Evernight's even and Hope Alicia. I mean, not Alicia. What's her name? Hope Sirini gives an immense buff. Okay, so yeah, that's what like. So, like if you were to try remembrance team and you did miss Casterus, you did miss Treevee, then I could say you could get her. But if you did get Hyacinth, if you do have a very formidable healers like Luocha, maybe Gallagher is doing well, right? Yeah, I pretty much stopped using Gallagher the moment I have Hyacinth because that's how good she is. So if you do have Hyacinth, minimum, then you can think about getting Evernight. So if you don't have a Hyacinth, don't even think of getting Evernight because she's gonna drain her lot of HP. So if you're a casteress main and you do have her at high scene, then she's gonna be overkill. Whatever extra damage casteress does, high scene is gonna be overkill. Like you're just gonna love it. I'm in a dilemma now. My account's in a dilemma. I've I've spent into like I've spent into casteress and casteress's teams and teammates. I got casteress. I got Hyacinth along with the signature light cone. I got Finan along with his signature light cone. Finan's doing well for now, but in the future with the new boss right, which will come in 3.6, this guy's gonna be tanky as hell. And guess what? Just like Mr. Pokey is unable to zero cycle it, I'm scared that maybe in the next MOC cycle, maybe in the next MOC cycle, the next Pure Fiction cycle, or even the Apocalyptic Shadows, I won't be able to like finish it within 10 cycles in Pure Fiction or MOC, or even in 5 cycles within Apocalyptic Shadow. Like I'm pretty damn scared, man. And that kind of questions me that do I have to even go for Evernight or not? Ceridra, on the other hand, will give Finan an edge. He'll give Finan another ability to like use his skill another time, even if he's in his ultimate state. So yeah, I'm pretty much in a dilemma. He's specifically more for Ceridra is specifically more for Finan and Anaxagoras, and this guy is anyways a DPS and a sub DPS. Now, since she has the role also as a sub DPS, she is gonna stay relevant for a very long time. I'm in a dilemma now. Now, the only one left is Cyrene, but I need to take a call whether I need Ceridra or not. My Finan is doing just fine because of Sunday and Bronir, but yeah, I have to take a call within the next few days whether I need Ceridra. If not, then yep, skip city. Then I may skip Ceridra. Look at this. And meanwhile, we might get a set of new information about Cyrene, right? We'll get to know by the end of the first phase how good Cyrene will be. I mean, by the looks of her banner, she looks to be incredibly broken. kind of like how Fugue was at the end of, yeah, the end of the 2.7 or the 2.8 cycle, right? Yeah, Facial did come in 2.5. Facial Linksha Rappa in 2.6, 2.7, yes. At the end of 2.7, HSR. I mean, they introduced Sunday. They introduced Sunday as a proper support for Jing Yuan at that time, but he was made with Aglaya in mind, and Aglaya just became instantly broken if you did pick up Sunday. So here they're gonna make, like, guess what, Sairi stand out for her, right? So this uh, if Evernight is gonna be a DPS slash sub DPS, then like Cyrene is gonna be for, she's gonna be a perfect support for March 7 Evernight. So that's what you need to have now, duo pairs. If you don't have dual pairs, you won't gain advantage, and that's the thing. Only if I might have skipped final, I might have actually invested in this team. But since I've invested in final and he's OP, so I'm put into this dilemma that I need Saritra. Evernight is nice at this. But if your current team can finish it, then you can kind of skip it, because post M4, you say, post M4 era, whichever planet does come, brand new mechanics come, they're gonna prioritize them, they're gonna make the remembrance team weak, yeah, and you guessed it right, like within 2 patches. So, like, 2 patches within the moment Castor's banner came and she went live, Super Break's dead. Right now, I don't really see Super Break being used. So, my investment on Boodle, my investment in Boodle is pretty much dead, waste. Yeah, but yeah, that's what, like, I got Boodle so that I can invest in Apocalyptic Shadow. Yeah, because at that point in time, I was struggling in Apocalyptic Shadow, like clearing in it. Yeah, clearing especially the fourth stage. It just became hell as simple the moment I got Boodle, and I was lucky. I was blessed with E1 and S1, just with 90 pulls. So Boodle Zindabad. So yeah, like, a character's true capabilities gets gets tested after the 3 month phase. So basically, two versions. So basically, two versions later, after the release, after the introduction patch, is when you're gonna see that a particular character is worth it or not. Yeah, Akron's past it. I still use Akron even to this day. Yeah, thanks to Feud. So yeah, thanks to Feud, I'm able to still use Akron today. So if I do get Sirini, I will still be able to use Remembrance characters even in 4 point going forward into 4.x series, like 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and so on. It won't be the common, but when uh, various typings, various new set of enemies do come, yeah, if the type kind of matches, that's it. Everything else is done. If types and mechanics do match, this is very, very important. So with this, I will conclude my analysis of Evernight. So yeah, Now, Shade, let's see you in HSR 3.6. We'll see Evernight on the day she releases. And if any information does spawn, I'm gonna release a video immediately. Or within 1 or 2 days. That's it. Good night. Take care.